Everybody in the room?
Yeah.
Welcome to Metropolitan. It is so nice to be in a room with so many people with a social conscience. And I always say this a lot, there was a time when we cared about, nuclear disarmament. We cared about, famine in Africa, and then we lost our way, right? But I believe now is our time. I believe now, and I believe from the women's movement, something has started in this country that has raised our consciousness, that makes us realize that there is a better future out there and that we need to fight for it. And I thank you for what you do, because this little piece is an amazing thing. I've learned so much from Steve and Cece just over this process. So I want to thank you. And I'm going to read a little scripted thing I've got here now. So it's an honor to be here tonight and thank the community, and especially Steve and Cece. Where's Cece? Oh, there you are, right? I've got my dollar store readers on here, so bear with me. And bear with me on this picture here. I did not choose that picture. Your work in this small African country is remarkable. Your teacher trips each year between our country and Rwanda, the collection of donations and computers that help build technology skills, and the global relationships you are building between students and the Pen Pal program. Many years of horrific conflict within Rwanda borders have created a misunderstanding of the Rwanda of today. Your efforts are part of an effort to reverse this misunderstanding. Because of you, I know that Rwanda is one of the safest countries in the world. I also know that Rwanda is one of the easiest places in the world to start a business, and that 60% of its parliament is women, one of the highest in the world. And if we had more women elected officials in America, we'd have gun control. We have a lot to learn from this small country. Most of all, how to be civil. After many years of genocide, this country's reconciliation efforts and program have been called a model for the rest of the world. If the people of Rwanda can learn how to be civil to one another after years of genocide, then certainly we can learn to live together in Annapolis and across the country. As a young man in Australia, I sailed around the world. I am fortunate to know firsthand how important it is to create global citizens like yourselves in this small world of ours. Thank you to Connect Rwanda for helping make the world a village of connected global citizens. Your efforts will be appreciated for decades to come, and these teachers who I love. Can we hear it for teachers? Because you're amazing. Continue to share their life experience and these student graduates and start their careers and families. If there is anything the City of Annapolis can do for you, I am here to help. Thank you for your conscience. Thank you for your love. And Annapolis thanks you. Thank you. This man right here is
great. And thank you, Mr. Mayor. That we can pretty much end it now. I mean, he kind of said everything we needed to say. But thank you for being here and being part of our organization. And I voted for this guy hands down. To me, it was kind of the election was kind of a guy that really had vision for our city, that's already done so much for it, including the Wednesday Under the Stars and the First Sunday programs and the Fringe festivals and so many wonderful things that he's bringing into our city. When he got elected mayor, I thought, oh my gosh, I hope they give him permission to really change our city. I've said for a long time that our city can be more than boat shows and maybe football games. And with this guy's leadership, I think we can do a lot. Real quick story. As soon as he got elected, a friend of ours, a mutual friend of ours, had said, "Steve, I'm really so excited about Connect Rwanda. You really need to talk to the mayor about this." So he got us in contact. I don't know if he called me or I called him, but we got in contact, and I just started rambling. I said, "Oh my gosh, we can do Umuganda, which is a community work day every fourth Saturday, and all these things they do in Rwanda." And I got off that phone and I said, he must be thinking he is talking to some kind of a real whack job. But anyway, sorry about that first call, but I'm sure you get lots of them. So let's see.
If that's going to work.
How about if I just go boop? All right. So we decided to have this happy hour, and we were going to have a little talk. And I asked the board of directors, what are we going to say? What are we going to say up there? And Connie just said, "Steve, tell the story of Connect Rwanda. You've done it a million times. It should be pretty easy." So to know Connect Rwanda and to know our organization, you got to know a little bit about this tiny little African country. There it is. So it is tiny. You can see it right there on the equator, about 5 degrees south of the equator. It's surrounded by that monstrous Democratic Republic of the Congo. Kenya, Tanzania, with those great game parks like Serengeti, and up top you can't see it, but it's Uganda. So it's quite an interesting place. It's tiny, but it's crowded. They've got 12 million people in that country, and the country's size is a little bigger than the state of Maryland. Oh, this one is. So the topography of this particular country, over on the west side, it's similar to Maryland. You've got mountains over on the west near Lake Kivu and the Congolese border, and on the east side, Tanzania, it's kind of the flatlands. So up the north side of Lake Kivu, you've got the gorillas. You might remember Diane Fossey and Gorillas of the Mist. Well, that's where she did all her research, up in those mountains with those big, monstrous silverback gorillas. And over on the east side, where it's flat, they've got this little game park called Akagera, and they've got quite a few of the big animals out that way. To the north, in Uganda, we've got, towards Uganda, we have some incredible coffee growing areas. And that is topography. But with all those great things going on, most of them, in fact, I just was talking to the mayor, and first thing he said, "Yeah, Rwanda, it's, I think I saw that movie, Hotel Rwanda, right?" And it's true. It's 24 years since that genocide in 1994, and most of us know that genocide through this movie with Nick Nolte and Don Cheadle. And it was a horrific time in their history. It lasted 3 months, this genocide, and over 800,000 people were killed. That's 7,000 to 8,000 people a day. During the time, the UN was trying to broker some deals between the government and the fighting factions, but it didn't work out too well. But one of the bright spots of the genocide is this guy here. His name is Paul Kagame, the UN commander, the United Nations commander at the time of the genocide, called him one of the greatest military strategists of the 21st century. Paul didn't really grow up in Rwanda. You see, he was a Tutsi, and in the 1960s, when the Hutus came to power, Paul and his family went next door to Uganda, and he was raised in a refugee camp. But his parents were there. He grew up with discipline. He made his way up in the Ugandan army, and he even got to spend some time in the U.S. And do some military training in the U.S. During the genocide, Paul and his invading force called the Rwandan Patriotic Front, they were hunkered down throughout Rwanda. But this guy, he's a rule follower. He was listening to the UN, and the UN was saying, "Hey, Paul, you and your guys, they need to stay down. We've got this handled." Meanwhile, people are being slaughtered right and left. And ultimately, when the president of Rwanda's plane got shot down, which sparked this genocide, the UN pulled out. Paul and his men rose up and systematically surrounded every town in that country, drove the militants into the Congo, sealed the border, and the rest is history. So much of Rwanda's success, almost all of its success, is a result of this one man. Sorry guys, I'm used to speaking to like high school students. So, what has he done? We've gone from ashes and this mayhem called the genocide to now the 9th safest country in the world. I think Gavin also mentioned that Rwanda has the most women in parliament of any country in the world. Yeah. And it's, you and me are the only but that's pretty amazing. They actually have a law in place that mandates they have at least 30% of women in parliament making their laws. They've outlawed plastic bags for the past 10 years, which is a great accomplishment. And they're serious about that. I mean, yes, at the airport, when we first moved into Rwanda, we rented a house. The lady says, "Look, I'm taking off for 2 weeks. Here's my house, but and you can have all the food in it. Just make sure you replace those or keep those Ziplocs here because I don't want to lose those." So plastic bags, they're serious about their environmental stuff. 2008, Paul Kagame and his parliament of mostly women were sitting around and they're like, our official language is French, but those French haven't really treated us all that well over the years. They were pretty complicit in the genocide themselves, and we want to align ourselves over on the eastern side with the eastern side of this continent, the eastern countries that speak English. So in 2008, they switched from French to English. So it seems simple enough, but just imagine if our government said, "All right, guys, our official language now is Spanish," or something like that. I'm sure many of you would not be happy. And there were a lot of Rwandan men my age that kind of refused to switch languages or even learn English. So Paul, he gets around. He's been to D.C. and met all the presidents over the years. He's in Korea. He negotiates different deals and partnerships for fast internet for his country. He's now brokering with the Chinese to build a lot of infrastructure. So this guy is not a guy who sits at home. He's actually out and about doing the best things for his countries. One of the other things that I would like to mention is that in addition to that, he I can't juggle these things. He's actually resulted in kind of a reverse brain drain. In a lot of African countries, when people get educated, they leave and go to other countries. Well, this guy actually goes out to other countries and convinces a lot of the Rwandans to come back to Rwanda because things are pretty darn good there. So how did I end up in Rwanda? It's because of this woman right here. It's my wife, Claudia. You might know her from Annapolis OBGYN or, sorry. There she is. My wife, she's not one to sit on a beach and read books. She's kind of an action person. So anyway, she does, for fun, she goes out and does this medical outreach. She's in Philippines and other places, and in 2012, she went to this place called Rwanda. I said, "Ooh, honey, Africa, that sounds kind of scary. Have a good time." So off she went, and there she is. It's kind of pretty rough looking, operating in big plastic garb instead of disposable stuff that we're used to. And and fancy tools. And those doctors, when they go on those medical outreach things,